And looking at what we've got in this week ahead, um, there is one matchup that immediately just jumps out, and I'm like, this is the game of the week. And normally we don't kind of name the game of the week until we've taken the time to really look at and analyze what's going on, but I think we got it already. And so I'm going to save that for last. But, we'll start out west. In the West Valley, Chatsworth is visiting Birmingham. And Chatsworth showed that this young and hungry team can stay in matchups against these more experienced squads when they're disciplined. Their defense is good enough to hold powered offenses in check just long enough for Ramo to get going. And it's going to be a really, really good test against Birmingham next week on both sides. Cleveland is going into Granada Hills. And Granada Hills, now fresh off of this battle against Birmingham, is going to host Corey Hall and the Cavs. And that is going to be a very interesting matchup. Just looking at in terms of him sticking his nose in there and trying to stop the Stanleys. That Granada Hills defense trying to keep Donovan Powell in check while Corey Hall is out there running slants and turning him into, hopefully, for Cleveland, turning him into big yards. But this is another kind of well-balanced matchup that is going to be exciting to watch. And then Taft goes into El Camino, trying to keep the momentum they had against a really tough game they played Cleveland. It was a 4-point game. So that helps you kind of build like, hey, we are the road warriors, and we will play everyone tough. And I guarantee you, if Cleveland comes out, if El Camino comes out and has another game with 17 penalties, Taft is going to look to make them pay. And they just might. So that El Camino is going to have to play a much cleaner game, a much more disciplined game. Out in the East Valley, you've got Arleta going into Pauley, and Pauley, again, like we said, they prove they're no slouch. They're going to make Arleta work. The Arleta offense had a bye week to kind of figure it out. I think it's their second bye week this season. And so how are they going to come out against this Poly team that's hungry, and they got Somerville who's going to try to run around them? Verdugo Hills goes into Grant. Both teams were shut out this last week. So looking at them going in, they both are going to want to figure it out. But we know Verdugo Hills is going young. So they had turned to Anthony Ramirez. He kind of had a rough outing against Pauley. Do they stick with him? I think they should, if they're going to, fully try to see what they've got going next year. As a sophomore, game reps are game reps, and he's going to need it. And Grant, going to look to rebound and, behind their sophomore at quarterback, but he has those senior weapons to spread the ball to. So that's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye on as far as how both teams approach it. Monroe is going into Chavez after Chavez put a scare in the North Hollywood. And if you're Monroe, you look at that film from Chavez North Hollywood, and you understand that if you aren't ready to go, you think you're taking them lightly, Chavez might surprise you and pull one out because they're capable of it. And in the last game of the East Valley, North Hollywood actually goes out of league and schedules a Southern Section challenge going into Hoover. And Hoover has been damn near unstoppable this season. And so that's an interesting test for Scott Farrer and his bunch. Uh, Jalen Burton, Ronnie Gibson going to be trying to run the ball. But it's going to be interesting to see what they can do there. That game will probably go a long way in deciding if North Hollywood ends up in a D1 ranking or in D2. It's going to be interesting. And then going into the Valley Mission, San Fernando is going to host. Silmar's hosting San Fernando. And San Fernando's coming off a big win against Van Nuys. That's going to give them some energy. And Silmar's going to look to rebound. San Fernando has struggled some this year. So Silmar will try to take advantage of that. But again, we know the Silmar team is kind of young. And that'll be an interesting one to kind of watch, again, peripherally in terms of what these teams are doing. Reseda is going into Van Nuys. Reseda has been, rebuilding. Both of these teams have kind of been struggling on paper. But I think both teams are trying to lay the foundation for what they're going to be in the future. So that'll be a really interesting one to keep an eye on. And then our big game. Kennedy is going into Canoga, and it's homecoming for Canoga. And like you said earlier, the winner is probably coming out league champion. And the buzz is palpable. And again, you said it. The buzz was palpable in the middle of the game, or when they were announcing that homecoming is next week and Kennedy's coming in. I'll turn it over to you right after. We've got 3 Southern Section games we're looking at. Campbell Hall has its first league test when they go to Brentwood Academy. That's going to be interesting. Brentwood's a pretty good team this year, and they're going to want to test that Campbell Hall team. Village travels to Ontario Christian, and the Big Bear game was good for them in terms of being able to get out the win. Now Ontario Christian's undefeated, and they're pretty solid. And the last one we're looking at in that sense is Heritage Christian goes to Big Bear. Now, in 2 weeks, we've got the Big Bible Bowl matchup. Heritage versus Village. Looking at their common opponents kind of makes me a little more excited. Aquinas did beat Heritage pretty handily. So what they do against Big Bear this coming week, is going to be very telling to me as far as what they're bringing into the matchup with Village. But big rivalry matchups, as you know, you kind of take the other stats and throw them out the window because kids are going to show up just ready to get at each other.
My bad. Yes, I do have some.
My bad.
No, that's all good. I have a list. See, because this is when the juices get flowing for me, because everything for me is about what's the story in this game. And yes, I'm looking at some of those matchups in the Southern Section, but most of what I'm looking at, where I'm to pull stories from this week, a lot of it's going to come from the Valley, and I'm going to give you my list. Number 1, we're going to start with those prove it games. Brentwood and Campbell Hall. Campbell Hall is 8-0. Brentwood is going to come in and say, let's see how good that 8-0 is, because they're pretty good themselves. Village has got a tough test with Ontario Christian. Let's see what you guys are made of. We're going to see what that freshman quarterback is all about. Of the prove it games, though, that Hoover and NoHo game is it just jumps out at you because it's a risk at this point of the year to put a team like Hoover on your schedule. This year more so than any because Hoover got out to that hot start. Then 2 weeks, then last week they got embarrassed. They got 40 burgered, and then this week they're going to be pissed off because they play Carpinteria and they get beat by 1 point. So now you've got a North Hollywood team coming in. Oh no, it's time that this is a therapy game. We're going to beat y'all up. We're going to treat y'all like a stress ball, and we're going to try to put something on you just to let everybody know, yeah, we stumbled for a couple of weeks, but we're the real deal out here in Glendale. So you take this trip and come get this butt whooping. But North Hollywood's got the horses that no one's going to just beat them up. Even in tough competitions in the beginning of the year where they lost some games, they've played with anybody because that 1-2 puncher, Gibson and Burt, and what they bring on defense, they're going to play in a game. They're going to play a game. And like you were talking about, if they somehow go with the way they've already played this year and they go out to Glendale and win that game, they're going to be a team that people are looking at in D1 that you might want to avoid in the first round if they get slotted in D1. Number 2, Monroe Chavez. Yeah, that's right. I was going to go back to Chavez because I always go back to Chavez, and I'm always going to go back to Chavez. But this time it's not just because I love the program. It's because this is the classic pitfall game. This is the classic trap game. Monroe has got their sights, their seniors. They want this league title bad. When you talk to that coach, when you talk to Pops, he will tell you that his seniors have taken lumps for a couple of years and they see an opportunity to put a legacy on a program for the kids that are coming behind them to have to follow, to change the narrative around that Monroe program. You go in 2 weeks, they've got a shot at North Hollywood, and no matter how it plays out, they'll never be able to take that you were right there and you tied first place and you completely turn this team around. Monroe hasn't done anything to talk about since 2014. This is their chance, these seniors' chance to really kind of cement and say, hey, we did that in 2022. But in order to get there, they cannot look past this Chavez team, who North Hollywood thought they could take the foot off the gas this past week. Then all of a sudden they were looking up with a couple minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and it was 27-22 when they had a 20-point lead at some point in the first half, and Ronnie Gibson had to pull their butts out of the fire because that's what's going to happen when you play Chavez. If you're not ready to play, or if you think you're going to take the foot off the gas with this team, their brakes don't work. They are going to keep coming at you, and until they blow that final whistle, until someone comes and taps them on the shoulder and say, hey, the game is over, you can stop fighting now. That's the mentality that they've come to every week when they play. So Monroe better be ready, because if they aren't, they could be looking up saying, damn, we had it and we blew it, and now that NoHo game doesn't mean as much in 2 weeks. The third thing, that Poly team, something about them. They're a small outfit. They got a lot of angry seniors that are tired of getting kicked around. And I'm pretty sure they enjoyed ruining a homecoming this past weekend, because that feels good. Anybody who's played, the attitude that you always are supposed to have, because Deion Sanders even said it this past weekend with Jackson State going to play Alabama State. How dare you schedule me on your homecoming? Because everybody knows that's a game you want to win. We're doing this stupid parade. You're going to do your little stupid parade. You're going to bring out the whole homecoming court. I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm saying that's the team that's coming in. That's how you kind of feel. Our game is 30 minutes later because we got to watch y'all parade around and hold up your little stinking signs. And now people are here at your games that don't normally come, because now we got to look at the girl and the guy standing there waving. No, we want to ruin that. We want to send everybody home unhappy. You put on your best outfit to come hang out at homecoming, and what'd you do? You came here to watch your team get their ass whooped. Poly enjoyed what they did last week. They've got a chance to do it 2 weeks in a row. They got a chance to do it to our leader. Our leader's breaking out the lights. It's going to be fun. That place is going to be packed. And all Poly wants to do is say, you know how y'all been feeling good, how y'all turned this whole thing around? Well, we came in here at homecoming and we said that league title's done. Y'all can go home, pack it up. Y'all ain't winning nothing with us. Number 4, fireworks. Taft and Elko. If you still what Taft did this past week, yes, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle against tougher teams, but that's another bunch that keeps coming. What we talked about, what I've talked about with Elko during this 4-game winning streak is they're going to do whatever they need to do to win a game. They got to outscore you, they're going to outscore you. If they got to just play you and then get a stop or two, they're going to do that. Drayden Fowler's going to be running all over the place. Jake Shirley's going to be running all over the place. Javen Hall, you lose sight of him, he'll go run all over the place on you. They've got playmakers on offense and defense. And Taft has enough in the tank that at this point, they're just pissed off. We got to go through the same thing every week. We on the road. We in your building. We got to look at your stupid cheerleaders. Hey, yay, you guys are at home. They're sick of it. They would like nothing more to do this week than to take a team that's won 4 in a row and just pour orange juice in their cornflakes this week. That's what Taft is going to go in there and try to do and expect fireworks. This team put up 36 this past week, and we know Elko can put up points if you let them. So I'm looking for that to be an interesting, a fun game, a lot of points scored all over the place. Number 5, the number 5th thing I'm excited about is Granada Cleveland. Why? Cleveland had all this expectation. They beat Palisades. We were looking at them like, hey, that's D1. Could they be a top seed in D1? You beat the number 2 team in the city section at the time. Since then, the wheels kind of fell off a little bit. They went to Carson. They got beat up. They came home. Elko kind of put one on them. They played okay, but without Corey Hall in that game, they looked human all of a sudden. Okay. This past week, they kind of got it back together, but it didn't look great. So now, but you've got a chance to kind of go a full 360 with the narrative if you can kind of take care of business against this Granada team and get yourself back in the race. Because oddly, even with how things have felt the 2 of the last 3 weeks, it's still all on the table for these guys. You go beat the Stanleys, everybody's back hyped about what you could potentially do. And it could be a precursor to another matchup with them in D1 in the playoffs down the line. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they can win this game or if Granada is just going to continue to cement the fact that 1-point loss could have easily been a win for us. And we're going to come in here and smash these guys too and just kind of totally like we're going to take the bloom off that rose completely. And we're the guys to beat going forward when playoff time comes. Number 6, the Ramo Show. It goes to Birmingham. Listen, we've talked about this kid ad nauseum about how he is literally carrying his team and most of the time the other team on his back during games. And they shoot themselves in the foot, but it's not a lack of talent. It's just they kind of lose their way at times because they're young in certain places. They're inconsistent in certain places. But this kid, one thing that's not inconsistent is the star power that emanates from this kid when you watch him play. Now, here's the thing. Am I expecting them to go beat Birmingham? Hell no, I'm not expecting them to go beat Birmingham. But you know what I am looking forward to seeing? Can this dude trample over Birmingham the way he's trampled all over everybody so far this year? Because if he does, what that does for him is it puts him back in the conversation for a city section player of the year. Because with a team that kind of drops the ball on him a little bit sometimes, he is still every week going out there and putting up damn near 200 yards on good defenses. We've seen him do it against tough defenses. And this one is going to be right at the top of the heap. If he comes out of this game with 200 yards on the ground, we're going to be looking at him and saying, I don't think, even with how much we've talked about him, we clearly need to talk about him some more. And the last part, the last thing I'm looking forward to, maybe the thing I'm looking forward to the most, Canogan Kennedy. I can't wait. I walked out of that stadium and kids were literally looking at each other and saying, F Kennedy, we're better than him. They think they're all that. That's how every rivalry goes. That's how every team, that's how it should always be. That you think that those guys think that they're better than you, even whether that's a thing or not. That's the way you're going to approach this. When that roar went up that Kennedy was coming in for homecoming, you could feel already a week ahead of time that place was ready for what was coming. So that's going to be a barn burner. It's going to decide the league. Canoga wins that game. They're going to waltz to a Valley Mission title when at the beginning of the year, it didn't look like that was really going to be the case. And for Kennedy, they're going to lick their wounds a little bit from this Franklin loss. So they should be an angry bunch coming into Canoga. And again, two birds with one stone. Put ourselves in position to wrap up this league and also ruin your homecoming, because that's what it's all about this time of year. Ruining the other team's homecoming, because there are few feelings better than making everybody sad. So that's what I'm looking forward to this week. It is going to be fun. Chavez, please, Monroe, please heed my warning. I gave the same warning to NoHo, and they almost didn't listen to me. Ronnie Gibson had to save them. Do not take this team light, because it will come back to bite you going there to take on the Eagles. You go to the nest, you better be ready to fight.
I mean, we're right in the thick of celebration season and heartbreak season. And someone's going to be dancing on someone else's broken heart. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, this time of year, you just want things to mean something. You want everybody who's playing to have a motivation for how hard it is to play the game of football. You want everybody to have a motivation. And even for tank games or teams like Poly, who may have already their shot to like win a league title or really improve their standing come playoff time, that might be out the window. But it doesn't mean that this team still isn't capable of going out and playing against a team like our leader and saying, hey, you guys, I don't know how much money y'all are spending to come rent these lights to play this game at night, but we want to make y'all have wasted your money. Like that's the whole point of high school football. It's not about money. It's about pride. You put that uniform on, you represent that school, and what you want to do is that team that you're playing against, that school, it's always going to be about the bragging rights that you can take in the next year. We want to piss y'all off because y'all don't think we should be able to beat you. But Somerville, I promise you, wants to go in there and waltz and run down the sideline staring at the homecoming queen and saying, I did this to you. That's all he wants. That's all he wants. I know it. I don't know the kid personally, but he comes across that way. He comes across like he means business out there. So I'm excited for all of it. And like we always talk about, there's heart, there's passion when you're talking about these Valley schools, and I'm excited.
You guys listening in, take that excitement, subscribe, like, click that little notification bell so you know when we drop these, and keep spreading the love, because we're going to be doing it. We love all you guys out there. There's 20 city schools, and we've got love for all of you. And if we haven't seen you yet, you bet your butt we're going to find a way to come see you. If we've seen you, you double down on that bet that we want to see you again. And we want to spread the word about all these kids, because they're all doing amazing things out here. And just keep it going. Keep it going.